What's up, YouTube? Capital G here, letting you guys know what the heck happened at the 200th YCS held in Utrecht, Columbus, and Mexico City. As always, I spent a good majority of my weekend reading up on the coverage and watching way too much of the Yu-Gi-Oh! Live stream so that you didn't have to. This event was absolutely monumental. I had been saying for months now that, in my personal opinion, this was the single biggest project that Konami has ever had in this game's history. I started playing this game all the way back in the third booster set. I cannot remember anything quite this ambitious when it comes to hosting an event. You guys already know that this event was held in 3 completely different countries across the world on 2 different continents, all simultaneously in the same weekend. Holy moly, and it was absolutely fantastic. First off, I want to say that I think that Konami had a lot riding on the 200th YCS. Well, it was 3 different events, but you guys get what I'm saying here. I think that we as a Yu-Gi-Oh! Community, we're honestly going to learn a lot about the health of Yu-Gi-Oh! And the future of the game from this event, considering that this was such a big project from Konami. I generally like to say that if a YCS event, no matter where it's held, gets over 1,000 people, that's pretty good attendance. And, you know, if we would have gotten maybe just 1,200 or 1,000 people at some of these events, that would have been acceptable, but it wouldn't have been outstanding. It wouldn't have been something where you're just like, whoa, no one expected to hit those numbers. And the numbers that they hit at these events were just absolutely mind-blowing. As always, I do like to start with the attendance, and the attendance was utterly ridiculous. I'll start with Mexico City because I said in my last video, I thought that YCS Mexico City was the biggest wildcard of these 3. I'm not sure that anyone really knew what to expect. I believe that, honestly, Konami would just easily tell you that they never expected to get these numbers where you're getting over 2,500 people. But I saw some of the lines at Mexico City. I heard some of the stories of people waiting 4 hours in line, over 2,000 players actually pre-registered. That is insane, especially considering, number one, a lot of the YCS events that are held in South America and like Latin America, they can range from anywhere from 400 to 1,000 people. So it can, it can definitely vary from place to place. But not only did they over double their attendance record, so they just absolutely shattered that. But when you look at some of the coverage that they had, which to my knowledge, this is one of the first times that we've actually seen coverage, look at the line that they had here. It was, look at this. These are all people who were entering Yu-Gi-Oh! I mean, this damn thing wrapped around the block twice, and these were all players who were actually trying to, participate in the Yu-Gi-Oh! Championship. And I believe right here it says that there were 2,539, but it says that that number only continues to grow because at these events you're going to have late registration. I believe the exact number, because they they had coverage throughout the event, and throughout the North American stream they did show updates from South America, or excuse me, from Mexico City. I believe their exact number was 2,516. So I don't think anyone's wildest imaginations would have told them that they would have gotten over 2,500 players in Mexico City. Not too bad when it comes to the United States over here as well. We got, I believe it was over 2,700 players. Yes, looks like the final number came in at 2,774, which is just absolutely incredible. To my knowledge, this is now the second largest YCS in Yu-Gi-Oh! History, coming second only to Costa Mesa during 5Ds. That event is in the Guinness Book of World Records. Costa Mesa was the largest trading card tournament of all time. It still currently is, and yeah, it's just amazing to have events where we're getting near 3,000 people. Not like Konami does something like this every day, but I'm just happy that, players definitely decided to turn out. When it comes to the Netherlands and Utrecht, you can see that they had a very good turnout as well. They had 2,354. That number is probably a little higher because it doesn't actually include like the late registrations, and there could be, I don't know, maybe 20, 30 people who ended up showing up maybe after round 1 and they decided to just take a game loss but still be entered in the tournament. This is also now Europe's biggest Yu-Gi-Oh! Tournament in history, which is kind of crazy because, as I said in the other video, We actually had just set that record earlier this year in Bochum, and now we've already broken it in the span of a year. So whenever you kind of, well, in my opinion, if you're breaking multiple records for attendance in the same weekend, that's definitely a good weekend, because Mexico, largest event this weekend, and then obviously for, you know, Europe, that is the largest event. Now, when it comes to the actual competitive play, to me, this weekend had two major stories. One of them, I would say most people kind of would have been able to predict. The other one was just, I don't think that it was predictable at all. The first story, in my opinion, is definitely the dominance of Sky Strikers. Man, if you guys thought that Sky Striker Ace Ray had a whole bunch of fan art before, oh my goodness, it's about to absolutely explode. I'm going to show you guys the top 64 of the 3 YCSs back to back to back, and you will notice one trend, and that is that Sky Striker was far and away the most dominant and successful deck. I believe that Sky Striker ended up winning 2 of these events. The third one will shock you. I'll get to that momentarily. But you see right here at YCS Mexico, now because these events had such great attendance, they didn't do a traditional top 32. Whenever you're talking about 2,500 duelists plus, I think it is only right to do a top 64 breakdown. And you can see at YCS Mexico City, over half, 33 players in the top 64 were running Sky Strikers. And this is not considered a Sky Striker Trickstar variant or any other variant. These are pure Sky Striker builds. Now, I personally thought that Sky Striker Pro was probably the favorite going into this format, because I don't really think that losing 1 Hornet drones affected the deck all that much. You were just going to go right back to, you know, Sky Striker Ace Ray control. And, you know, Sky Strikers are very similar to Spellbooks in my opinion. They don't do anything turn 1 that's anywhere near as powerful as the Extra Link, but their grind game is just, oh my god, it's legendary. And their resource management is the best in Yu-Gi-Oh! You look at the top 64 breakdown when it comes to Udrik, you can see very similar results to YCS Mexico City. In fact, actually, pure Sky Striker have a higher rate, coming in at 35, so even greater than Mexico. I believe at YCS Columbus it was a little lower. We have our full breakdown there. Shout outs to Jeff Jones, always my favorite Yu-Gi-Oh player of all time. Actually ended up first after Swiss, although he did lose to the eventual winner of Columbus. We can see it was 27 here, and a lot more American players not willing to give up Goki. Goki has incredible representation when it comes to YCS Columbus. 15 Goki decks in the top 6 or the top 64, which is yeah, I believe that that's almost double when it comes to Udrik and when it comes to Mexico City. Yeah, let's see. Goki only with 4 over there. So I think that the main takeaway is that Sky Striker is right now the deck to beat. And I think that it is going to have the biggest target on its back because its resource management game is so strong. It's almost impossible to actually brick in the deck, even with Hornet drones at 1. It's just not one of the major things that they need to get to. And it's just a super consistent deck. Now, when it comes to the other deck that I thought was one of the showstoppers, and really the deck that kind of I don't know, kind of felt like it came out of nowhere and shocked the world a little bit, that would actually be Sekka Burning Abyss. In fact, I've got Thomas Rose somewhere here. This is the guy, if you've ever played against the Burning Abyss, the Sekka's Light version, if you played against that deck and you got mollywopped by it in the last 6 months, this is the guy I feel like you gotta blame, because Thomas Rose is the individual who put this deck on the map. Every so often, maybe about every couple of years, maybe once every 3 years, I kind of feel like you'll have a deck in Yu-Gi-Oh! That still has a lot of power and still has a lot of potential, but you just need like one great mind to kind of unlock the last little bit of potential to basically take the deck from Super Saiyan God to, you know, Ultra Instinct. And I feel like Thomas has basically done that with Burning Abyss. Burning Abyss has still not really been power creeped, even though the deck is, you know, it's from Duelist Alliance. It's 3 years old. Billy Break actually did something very similar during Zexal with Insectors, when Insector, Dragonfly, and Hornet both went to 1. A lot of people was like, Insectors are a dead deck. Then Billy went to a YCS and he was like, wait a minute, Centipede's still at 3. Why don't I just build a deck around this, play a bunch of Call of the Haunted, so if my Dragonfly dies, I can just summon it back and just auto win the game. And he ended up getting top 4. And then, you know, a lot of people were playing Insectors again. I feel like Thomas Rose has definitely kind of revived the Burning Abyss deck, and it not only got 2nd place at YCS Udrik, this guy right here. I'm not going to try to pronounce his name because I'm just going to absolutely butcher it. I will say congratulations. I know that his deck profile was on Farfa and Lithium's channel, so you guys should definitely check that out. He ended up getting second place at YCS Udrich, and from what I'm hearing, YCS Mexico City, if I can find it, YCS Mexico City was actually won by Sekka's Light Burning Abyss, which is just absolutely mind-blowing. This is the deck that I don't really think was on a lot of people's radar. I don't think any YouTubers had it in their top 5. And what do you know? It ends up getting second place at one of these YCS events and then actually ends up winning the other. Now, from what I can tell, there was only one Burning Abyss player in the entire top cut, the entire top 64 of YCS Mexico City. So this has to be the guy, Andre Torres. I know he was in the finals before I was shooting this video. And yeah, from what I heard, he actually ended up winning. So congratulations to him. He did play off against Sky Strikers, so that means that Sky Strikers was in the finals of all 3 events, and they ultimately won 2 of them. So, I mean, I don't know, maybe Burning Abyss with the Sekka's Light is the second best deck of the format. I think that right now, if you look at the format, head and shoulders, you have to consider Sky Strikers to be the best deck. Then I think maybe you have a big 4 going on, because you see the top 4 decks at all 3 events is pretty much the same. You'll see Sky Striker at the top, usually Goki after that, and then you'll see Altergeist and True Draco. Yes, True Draco is still a legitimate thing. I can tell you from experience that True Draco absolutely mops the floor with my Altergeist. It's not just True Draco's ability to run Inspector Border, which also makes the Trickstar matchup incredibly favorable. Although Trickstars are, they're coming a little bit back to the fray, but also you got those big tribute monsters, and then you have the Monarchs of Rup that can just shut down card effects. It's definitely, it's definitely a problem matchup for a lot of these kind of rogue decks. So True Draco is definitely still part of the meta for anybody who's thinking that that's a dead deck. Now, when it comes to some of the rogue decks that we actually saw in the top cuts, there were a lot of them, especially when it comes to YCS Columbus. There are a couple of them that I was super happy to see, most notably Cyber Dragon. I did say that that was my dark horse pick to make it to the top 8. We saw a Cyber Dragon actually crack YCS Columbus top 64, which is right here. Then we actually saw it make YCS Utrecht top 64 as well. So I'm starting to think, yeah, maybe Cyber Dragons can hang with the meta a little bit. We saw another deck that I think a lot of players did not expect, but I actually believe it's a complicated deck, but it has such a high ceiling and a lot of potential. Right now, they're classifying it as a Dark Warrior deck. We've seen kind of iterations of it in Japan, Warriors and Goki kind of combined. This is a version that doesn't really rely on Goki, but instead just relies on a lot of Dark Warrior monsters like Armageddon Knight and cards like that. We saw Aaron Furman on the Columbus stream actually 2-0 his opponent with this deck, and it is incredible. Basically, instead of going for your Goki plays where you're trying to extra link the board off of Isoda, you actually go a different direction, and essentially you're abusing Gumblar Dragon. You Gumblar Dragon your opponent during their turn, take a couple of cards out of their hand. During your turn, you take more cards out of their hand, and then you actually Dark Law them as well. Dark Law basically says anytime your opponent wants to search, give me another card out of your hand. So that deck kind of relies more on Dark Law and Gumblar Dragon to get its opponent's resources off the field, or really your opponent doesn't put them on field, they just get rid of them in the hand. But it's another incredibly explosive deck that I think that we might actually see more of when people start learning about it. Honestly, I kind of feel like Armageddon Knight by the end of this format is going to be like a top 3 card in the entire game. The fact that you can normal summon Armageddon Knight and then go straight into Isoda is just ridiculous. And let's be real, Malicious, Destiny Hill Malicious was just made for link summoning. That card was a monster with synchro summoning, and synchro summoning and link summoning basically the same damn thing. Now, when it comes to some other things that I definitely noticed that were absolutely fantastic, number 1 would be Konami's treatment of YouTubers. Not only did they have a, basically a content creation section kind of for all the YCS events at the venue, but in Europe, they actually went in so far to feature YouTubers. This is amazing, man. Look at Farfa right there having a good old time. It is crazy how Konami has come full circle. I mean, this is a guy who they actually disqualified from nationals earlier this year. Now they're fully embracing him. They're having him on stream. They're putting him on the freaking front page of their website, which is just, it's crazy to me that Konami is now embracing the content creators, because there used to be in formats past when, YouTube started to become bigger and bigger, Konami was like, no, you can't record in our venues. If you record, we're just gonna throw your ass out. Now they're saying, no, come on guys, we want you to record, we want you to be on stream. I think Konami is finally, after so many years, starting to embrace the content creators, and I hope that they do more things with them. So definitely shout outs to Farfer for making the stream a little more enjoyable. Speaking of the stream, and that's the last point that I'll touch on, I think Konami definitely did a good job, especially the way that they kind of staggered the stream. As I said earlier in the video, you could have actually watched about 18 hours straight of Yu-Gi-Oh! On Saturday and Sunday. There was only a very small window where Yu-Gi-Oh! Was not being streamed, and you can see with the coverage and how Konami ran this event, they're definitely getting better when it comes to, treating the Yu-Gi-Oh! Community and understanding what players want, because players really want every YCS to be streamed, and hopefully they'll keep doing it. But whatever you guys thought of the 200th YCS, whether it was the dominance of Sky Strikers, whether it was almost 8,000 people showing up, whether it was the shocking attendance at YCS Mexico, or Sekka's Light Burning Abyss proving that it can be maybe a top 3 deck of the format, leave it in the comment section below. Thank you guys for watching. As always, subscribe if you have not already, and turn on that notification bell for daily videos.